So Sean Strickland apparently is in some more drama. He has basically called out Navy SEALs and said that none of you guys can hang with me. I'm sick of hearing this rhetoric that Navy SEALs could win in a fight when they can't. I'm sick of hearing that, like, they would smoke UFC fighters, or that they could hang with me, or whatever it may be. I'll tell any Navy SEAL to come train with me. I'll destroy them. I'll work them. I'll tire them out. They can't hang with me. Basically, he's saying, like, come spar me. I don't think he, like, wants to do push-ups with Navy SEALs. I think he just wants to fight him and just show him, like, you can't hang with, someone like me. And I get that argument. Now, there's a lot of military and some SEALs that have definitely spoken out, that have said, who are you to say this? We're fighting for a country. We're fighting for the rights of you. We're fighting for things that are far greater than being in an octagon. Who are you to say this? And there's one guy in particular, I believe he goes by Frogman Tactical. I'll see if I can plug his video. And he makes a very particular response where he acknowledges that Sean is a high-level fighter, that Sean is an accomplished man, but he's no one, kind of an egoic response, basically saying he's no one compared to people who fought for their freedom and have left not knowing if they're going to come home. People who, something goes wrong, there's no ref to stop them, there's no one to get them to safety, there's no doctor who comes in after the fight. If something happens that's bad out there, that's bad enough, they might never come home, and they might die a horrible death. And I definitely get that argument. And I agree with it to a certain extent.
I don't think there's one Navy SEAL who could survive a week training with me.
The weakest SEAL that has ever been created would destroy you in a street fight, as I would. There are no rules. We are fighting for our life. Every single time you went for an armbar or a choke or something like that, I would chew your face off. Those ugly ears sitting on the side of your head, I would rip off. If I needed to, I would run my thumb up your butt, but it's okay because I'm a nice guy. I would lube it with Tier 3 before I did it so it didn't hurt so bad. Yet you think you can break men like me? But come to the street where there's no rules, where we don't have to worry about hitting you in certain areas, where there's no bells, when it's all about survival instinct. It'll be a different story for you.
Sean immediately accepted the SEAL's challenge, but has been unable to contact the SEAL on Instagram. He wrote, I messaged him on IG and he didn't message me back. Roll through. Does he have a Twitter? Tag him. LOL.
But then he goes on. This is where I think he pushes it too far, and I think his delusion comes in. And he goes, he starts making this argument that, like, in a cage where there's rules and there's regulations and there's people to save you and there's doctors and all this other things and there's gloves and you can't strike someone in a certain way, you can't bite someone, makes this argument that, of course Sean would win. That's what he's trained to do. However, in a street fight, it would be totally different in that Sean's skills in a street fight don't translate the same way they translate in the octagon. And this is where this dude is completely delusional. And it's funny because I've been wanting to talk about this. I might make a couple videos on this, I'm not sure, but I've been wanting to talk about this for a little while. And now that this argument is kind of ubiquitous, because of what Sean Strickland has said, it's the perfect time. So it's an interesting argument that in a street fight, a Navy SEAL would win, and in an octagon, a high-level MMA fighter would win. But the high-level MMA fighter would lose, even if it was a champion, to a Navy SEAL, right, in a street fight. It's an interesting argument. I want you to comment down below what you guys think. So let me break this down. Navy SEALs get taught mostly, like, they get taught certain types of knife fighting and different things like that, and very, like, specific sorts of combat with your gun and, using different things as weapons. But when it comes to, like, what they get taught hand to hand, they get taught mostly, from what I understand, it's Krav Maga. Now, Krav Maga is a mixture of wrestling, jiu-jitsu, boxing, kickboxing, and Muay Thai kickboxing, and maybe some other stuff. But that's mostly what it is. It's a rudimentary form of all those things taught to someone so they could do it for a month and have a decent idea on how to defend themselves. Okay. However, it has rudiments of all those arts intertwined in it that comprise it, and then it's taught to the the customer, the person learning it, whoever it may be, the recipient. However, even the people who teach Krav Maga, or the masters, they're not masters in Muay Thai or boxing or jiu-jitsu or wrestling. They just know the rudiments of it, and they know it to a higher level than other Krav Maga people. Okay, but you could have a Krav Maga specialist. They would get destroyed by a low-level MMA fighter in a street fight. There's not a special move in Krav Maga that like is just taps. They press something on your body and you just collapse. It doesn't exist. And anyway, and again, they're taught the same things that MMA fighters are masters at, UFC fighters, same things that they have a high level of competency in. The Krav Magaists, the Kravists, they just know the rudimentary points of it. Okay, so Navy SEALs are taught Krav Maga. They know the rudimentary basics of these things like jiu-jitsu, boxing, Muay Thai, kickboxing. Okay, so even if you have a Navy SEAL who's killed 100 people in battle, he's fighting guys who don't know how to fight. So even if he's killed them in hand-to-hand combat, he's fighting guys who don't know how to fight. It's not hard to kill people who don't know how to fight, right? So say they meet in the street. You have a guy who is a specialist and an expert at boxing, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, wrestling, far more so than the guy who just knows Krav Maga, because Krav Maga is just the basics of all those things taught in like a package, right? So there's really, he made this argument that like, oh, well, if Sean goes to do an armbar, he puts his leg across my neck, I'm just going to bite it and I'm going to rip his calf. I'm going to rip his ear. I would grab his ears and I would rip his ears off. Like there's no one there to stop me. And it's just interesting that he thinks this, because again, he knows the rudimentary versions of boxing, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, kickboxing, and Muay Thai. Sean is an expert in all of those things. I think there's this delusion that like the Navy SEALs, because they're Navy SEALs, they know like a special move. There's like a special tactic they know that just ruins you. And if they do it, doesn't matter who you are. You could be a UFC champion. You're going to die, right? Again, that's not true. In a hand-to-hand combat situation, in a street fight, a fight to the death in the middle of a desert, this dude or any Navy SEAL has pretty much next to zero, maybe I would say maybe 1% chance, 2% chance next to Sean Strickland. He's not going to be able to get a hold of him, to bite him, to rip his ears off. I don't know how he would do that. I mean, I guess you could with your bare hands if you really had the opportunity, but a guy would have to basically be unconscious or not move for you to do that. He wouldn't be able to get a hold of him to bite him or to gouge his eyes out or whatever he thinks he's going to do. Because again, Sean is a master in the things that this Navy SEAL just knows the rudimentary basics of. Navy SEALs are not MMA fighters. They have so much more they have to learn. They have to learn like how to fight with knives, they have to be a specialist with guns, with pistols. They have to know all these tactics, how to move as a unit, underwater stuff, stuff with boats, stuff with tracking your enemy. There's so much they have to know. They're not MMA fighters. They couldn't spend their whole time doing that, right? They might have been taught by a jiu-jitsu specialist or this guy or that guy, but again, they just know the rudimentary stuff. Maybe the odd one's like a blue belt or a purple belt at jiu-jitsu. He's been doing it for long enough. But he's not an expert like Sean Strickland is. He's not an expert. He's not a master of it, right? Or like a top 15 UFC fighter is. So again, you're comparing someone who, like, we got to get rid of the name titles. The name titles don't matter. We have to look at skill levels. You're taking someone who has rudimentary understandings, or maybe like 1 to 2 years of training understandings. I'd say 1 year of training understandings of a martial art versus someone who has a 20-year understandings of a martial art, someone who is significantly far above in skill level, and you're putting them in a fight to the death. Regardless of a Navy SEAL or a UFC fighter, let's remove titles. Who wins? Who wins? One knows basics, one's a master. Who wins? I think you already know who wins. How you doing? What's up, man? I think you would already know who wins. So, again, it's just, I think people get caught up on these titles. This guy is making clearly a very egoic response to Sean Strickland, and he's triggered, and he's kind of trying to put Sean down. And he's made this argument that, like, I'll come train with you for a week and, you'll get to beat me up, but then you get to come train with me, and then we're going to, like, go in the middle of the ocean and swim back. And yeah, I'm sure if it's that style of training, this guy might do better, but we're talking specifically like in a street fight, which is the argument this guy is making. There's no chance. This guy is delusional. What's up, man? How you doing? Right. So this guy is delusional. I know he's triggered. I know he thinks this, he thinks that, but there's a lot of pride, obviously, doing what he's done. However, it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter whatsoever. So, at the end of the day, you have to look at skill level. You have to remove titles and just look at skills. This is something a lot of people just really struggle to do in general, whether they're fighters or not, especially a lot of fans, right? It doesn't matter if someone has a higher skill level. This is why you see UFC vets get smoked all the time, because they're like a 36, 37-year-old vet, and they get smoked by like a 22-year-old making like on his third win in the UFC. Not long after his debut, and he smokes. Remember when Darren Till fought Donald Cerrone, and Donald was so cocky and like, oh, this kid's not going to do anything I haven't seen. He's just a kid. He's just a pup. And then 2 minutes later, he's unconscious, waking up with blood all over, looking real stupid. And Donald Cerrone is one of the many arrogant, delusional vets whose career has gone downhill. Tony Ferguson, Cody Garbrandt, Luke Rockhold, Anthony Pettis, Tyron Woodley, a lot of these other guys who are just very arrogant and cocky and think that because they're like these vets, they know everything. And all of them have had horrible downfalls. Like they lost 6 fights in a row and finally they got cut. So a lot of them they got knocked out in. So again, we have to remove titles and just look at skill sets. And skill sets, this Navy SEAL and any Navy SEAL, unless they're also a high-level UFC fighter, they're getting smoked. It doesn't matter. This older gentleman making this video who's a Navy SEAL is delusional. So maybe they should just do a street fight and settle it. And we'll see how his ear-ripping tactics work, because it's not going to go very well. So it is what it is. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. It's a very interesting topic. And I think, if anything, it's a conversation of how titles and how perceptions can be very deceiving. Because that's all this is. People get caught up on like this Navy SEAL title. In reality, it doesn't mean anything. It comes down to skill sets. So anyways, hopefully the wind hasn't affected this video too much. My name is Angelo. This is The Art of Violence. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and click like. If you didn't like it, go ahead and click dislike. Tell me why you disliked it. I want to know everything. So again, my name is Angelo. This is The Art of Violence. Till next time.